Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulina Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Rabbi zidni ilma. So you need to go ahead and mute everybody. So we have a very special guest today, mashallah. This is one of my good friends, Brother Juan Galvan. And in fact, his son and my son are friends in the high school, Juan Jr. So this is just a wonderful family, mashallah, that recently moved here. So he's going to be speaking to us about the experiences of Latino Muslims and their journey to Islam, inshallah. Juan, please go ahead.
Hi. Assalamu alaikum. This is Juan Galvan. Can you hear me well?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay. And let me see if I can lower this down so I can see a little bit better. All right. So, so the three things I was going to talk about is going to be my journey to Islam, my Latino Dawah activism, and challenges Latino Muslims face. So my journey to Islam, a lot of times when new Muslims talk about their conversion to Islam, they talk about their background. I came from a very small community in the Texas Panhandle. If you see those two little dots above Wichita Falls, there was a couple of towns. One is called Kittiquay, one is called Turkey. And right in between, there was this school that you see in the middle there, and it was called Valley School. And since those two towns that I said were so small, we all went to that one school, and it was from kindergarten to high school. And my dad was a cotton ginner. It was basically like working in a factory, like working with preparing the cotton so that it could be sold and to make shirts and stuff like that. The picture up on the upper left is a house that looks like now. Obviously, it didn't look like that when we were younger, but it's a really small house. And at one point, there were like 8 of us living there. There was 8 of us kids and my parents. And over the bottom is a church that we used to go to. If you see it in Turkey, and you can see it, it's actually very, very small. And in that little town, there's like maybe 7 or 8 churches. And to the right is like a picture from my confirmation, from my first communion. And the reasons I wanted to show you these pictures is to let you know that you guys are very blessed, because Islam has been a part of your life for a very long time. For me, I didn't learn about Islam until I was in college. And that's when I first met Muslims. And also, there was really no diversity where I was growing up. It was like either people were, we all either called ourselves black, it was black or Mexican or white. And, it was kind of like there were like the white churches and the black churches. And if you're Latino, you went to the Roman Catholic Church. Okay. And I'm also Mexican-American descent. If you look below Texas, that's part of Mexico underneath there. Yeah, so I am a Latino and Mexican-American. And oops. Yeah. And let's go to
I can't hear.
Oh, you can't hear? Okay. Oh, no, that wasn't really loud. So let me go to the next slide. So my journey to Islam, my first time to a mosque was the one in the middle. It's very, at the time, it was like very, like a lot of branches. So you can't really see it very well. But the picture in the bottom is what it looked like, essentially like that. But if you look around, it was pretty much just white. So that's where I first began going to a mosque. And one of my friends told me, hey, I have a cousin who will take you there, and his name is Mamoon. So I was like, oh, okay. And so I went, and yeah, he was dressed like in a thobe, and I'd never really seen anyone like that, and the little hat, and and when we got there were no shoes. You told me to take off my shoes, and I'm thinking, oh, someone's gonna steal my shoes. And inside of the prayer, there were no women. I'm like, what's going on here? Because it was so confusing, because at church, you don't really see that. But I did start attending the mosque regularly, and I was really impressed by the brotherhood, by the devotion of the Muslims that I met. And Yeah, so after going for maybe a couple of months, I decided to embrace Islam. I took my Shahada at the mosque that you see on the right, the bigger one, and the bottom, that's me and a picture of me toward the front.
We don't.
Yes. Question?
I can't see a screen.
I don't know.
You may have to increase the volume. That's probably why. That's
Yeah.
anyway.
I don't think anyone else.
Probably on your side. You're perfectly clear.
Okay, good.
Please.
As far as my family reaction, most, they didn't really know anything about Islam. So, you know, and I converted to Islam in summer 2001. So by September, I was explaining to them stuff like one of my sisters thought that Osama bin Laden was like the Pope of Islam, and you know, they don't, and it was just, you know, they're like, what did he get himself into, and things like this, because they had no idea about how many Muslims there are, like, you know, billions, right? So they just didn't understand these kinds of things. Today, my family is very respectful. If we visit them, they'll cook us food without pork, and yeah, they're very kind, and I am married, and they're very respectful to her too. So the next part is my Latino Dawa activism. One of the first things that I noticed when I first became a Muslim is, why aren't there more Latino Muslims? Like when I was reading about different statistics, it was always like you know, white Muslims this percentage, Black Muslims this percentage, Arab, you know, Asians, and for Latino Muslims, it was always such a small number. So I wanted to get involved and try to figure out ways that I could help with Dawa. And I accomplished some of this by going to conferences and conventions. I've done several interviews, with different places like New York Times and stuff. And I've also helped with academics with their research about Latino Muslims. Then there's these other two books that, if you look at the bottom, Latino Muslims, Our Journeys to Islam, and the Spanish translation is Musulmanes Latinos, Nuestro Camino al Islam. And so those have been very very, very good, and you know, have a very positive impact in letting people know about Islam. I also have, I'm also the president of this, it's called the LADO group. Initially, it was called the Latino American Dawa Group. The Latino American Dawa Organization. We still have that name, but now, just because it's for shorter sake, we do that. I also created the websites that you see there, latinodawa.org, hispanicmuslims.com, latinomuslims.net, and latinomuslim.com. That's my blog. The first one is the website for our organization, hispanics.com. Muslims.com is all about Spain. Latinomuslims.net is the website for the book, and latinomuslim.com, I think I already said it's my blog. And some of these pictures, if you, the upper left is the year after I became a Muslim, I worked on this project with Islamic Horizons, and we put together a whole magazine with just about Latino Muslims. And this is me and Samantha Sanchez, who is the founder of the Latino American Dawa Organization, and I'm holding the magazine. And this was a conference for Latino Muslims. And then next to that is also another picture of some of us Latino Muslims at another conference. And the picture below that is me speaking at a convention in Washington, DC. And yeah, the book has been very well received. Latino Muslims, Our Journeys to Islam. There are different, I was blessed to have certain well-known Latino Muslims there, like Martha Gallaudet, who was the founder of Lalma out of LA. Hamza Perez, who was in a documentary called New Muslim Cool, a PBS one. Jehan Sanchez was actually one of the really most beautiful conversion stories that I read. It talks about how when she finally got to see the Kaaba up close, it was just such an emotional reaction for her. Ramon Ocasio is one of the founders of Alianza Islamica, and his conversion stories in there. Wesley LeBron is a Latino Muslim imam, as is Yusuf Masonette. And I'm going to go to the next slide. So challenges Latino Muslims face. So the one on the left, I put that because sometimes people don't see that, you know, Latinos and Muslim is and Islam is something that's compatible, because you know, sometimes it's really sad, but some people, they see it as like cultural apostasy, basically. And so the next one that I put was not sure if Mexican, and then it says for Puerto Rican or Cuban or Dominican or Brazilian or Nicaraguan or Venezuelan. The reason I put that one there is because a lot of people don't know, a lot of Muslims don't know that much about Latinos. But yeah, everyone that's listed on that particular image are Latinos, but the Latino community is actually very diverse. There can be, you know, Black Latinos, white Latinos, brown Latinos. It can be any colors. It's more of an ethnicity. And the picture to the right is my kids a few years ago when there was the ban against the Muslims from traveling, or the Muslim ban. And so we went to a protest and they carried that sign with them. And some of the other challenges for new Muslims is practicing like how it should be done, or what is ideal. That's one of the reasons why I chose that picture about when the new Muslim finds out he can't eat or drink for 15 hours. I think it's a shock for some people to see how much, you know, dedication that takes. The next picture it says, when someone asks you, how did you become a Muslim? And then there's this old show by Will Smith, and that says, no, this is a story about how I got my life all flipped upside down. And I like that one because people are really eager to ask about your conversion story. But the way that some people ask is almost like if you're being like suspicious, or like, well, are you really a Muslim? Or, you know, so that can kind of be bothersome for some Muslim converts. The one to the right, I think, is most kind of sad for me, because a lot of Muslims, you know, a lot of people convert to Islam and then they're bombarded, and there's not that patience or the manners that can help strengthen the people's, you know, a new Muslim's iman. And instead they feel like they're being dragged down, and it's become very complicated for them. So that's why I put that one down there. And so I'll leave you on a happy note. And I put this, and during the Hajj, someone said, hey, why don't you, someone said, hey, you need to have something so that you can prove that you're a Muslim. So I put this together, and I thought it was pretty funny. How it says, congratulations presented to Juan J. Galvan for converting to Islam. And you did it. And then this is a brother that helped me learn about Islam. And this is the date that I converted to Islam. And I want to end with a funny story. One time I was talking to this Christian preacher, and he was telling us, and he actually wrote on the piece of on a chalkboard. He said, 1 + 1 + 1 = 1. And he was like, and then he explained the idea behind the Trinity. And then my friend went up there and he said, well, so what do you think? How and asking him, how doesn't that make sense to you? And he's trying to imply, hey, you know, so what he ends up doing is he ends up going up there and he goes 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. And that preacher looks at it and he goes, you know what? That doesn't make any sense. So that's the end of my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, that was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. That's just so beautiful. You were absolutely right. I mean, sometimes when somebody who's new to Islam, we bombard them with all types of things, and which is completely the opposite of what the Sunnah teaches. when the Prophet ﷺ sent Sayyidina Ali, he said, you are going to a people who believe in La ilaha illallah. And if they accept that, then say Muhammad, then teach them Muhammad Rasulullah. And if they accept that, then teach them the prayers are 5. You know, you're not supposed to overwhelm people in that way, especially, you know, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's just so tragic sometimes, the intolerance that we see sometimes in the Muslim community. So I completely understand what you're saying.
Well, and another thing is that a lot of, you know, like if there's like, you know, white Caucasian that's at the mosque, you can say, oh yeah, you can clearly see that, you know, like some people mistake me for Pakistani, or, you know, and so they have no idea about my level of understanding, or, you know, my own personal experiences or anything like that. So,
well, if it makes you feel any better, I was living in the deep South before coming to Springfield. I was living in Southwestern Virginia, and people mistake me for Mexican all the time. All the time.
Yeah.
And I would play up to that.
You know?
I would totally play up to that. I say, "Orale, what's happening?" or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
So I would do that. I would play up to those stereotypes, you know. That's
you know, one of the things I didn't mention is that, you know, one of the common things that about for Latinos is the common language of Spanish, and how,
sure,
you know, and when someone becomes a Muslim, and if they go to the mosque and there's no literature for them,
sure,
it's very disheartening, you know, because they're at that point, they're just, you know, the amount of
sure,
of resources that's available for them is
sure,
you know, and the opportunities for them to learn. And if there's no, you know, persons there that know any Spanish, I mean, it's a huge,
sure.
you know, something that they have a huge hurdle, you know. So that's one of the things that we have tried to do. Some of us who work with Latino Dawa try to work with, you know. So.
Well, so do we have Spanish translations of the Quran? And if
Sure, there's actually about 4 or 5.
Wow, mashallah. Wow. Huh.
They're not really this. They're not all this. Some of them are not the best translations. And then there's some that are like really, really good. There's one by Kamal. I can't remember his name, but it's like Kamal, and it was by the Maryland Press, Amana, and it's a hardcover. It's a very pretty book, very pretty Quran.
Mashallah.
So I always kind of recommend that if someone has some.
Oh, definitely. I do work with the Hispanic Muslims in prison, so I'll definitely remember to take some Spanish Qurans with me. A lot of people don't know that California comes from the root, the land of the Caliph, because when the Spanish came into California, they were impressed by the beautiful environment and the mountainous climate. And so the closest thing that resonated with them was Muslim Spain. And so the land of the Caliph is California, the largest state in the US, you know, so, and even ole comes from Allah, you know, so,
Yeah.
so many Spanish words that are Arabic origin and that are camisa is actually a shirt, which well, that's an Arabic word, but it's also a Spanish word too. So
yeah, that's true. There are hundreds of words that have, you know, Arabic roots, and that's one of the things that we try to tell people who are interested in Islam and also about, you know, Andalusia and Islam in Spain, and
sure,
you know, the influences and architecture and culture. So and yeah, I mean, people are very interested in that. You know.
That's beautiful. Any questions anybody has for Brother Juan? You can now unmute yourself, please.
I have a question.
Yes, sweetie, go ahead.
What inspired Juan Galvan to become a Muslim?
He just talked about that. But Juan, what inspired you? Was there a specific moment that inspired you to become a Muslim?
Well, you know, it was for me. I feel like it was, you know, just like just gosh, you know, I was very blessed to be just kind of like interested in different things. And I mean, like I'd never heard of a Latino Muslim, and then I saw a Latino Muslim praying and I talked to him, and it was like weird to me because at that point I never really thought too much about a Latino who's a Muslim. And this time I saw someone that was praying who was a Muslim, and it had an impact on me.
Wonderful. Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay. So go ahead.
What you was feeling when you was being Muslim?
Was there a specific feeling that you had after taking the Shahada?
Oh yeah, I took like as I mentioned, I took a Shahada at that mosque. At that mosque, in this mosque in the upper right, and yeah, it was wonderful. Like Ghulam, went through the Shahada with me and everything, and afterward, I got a lot of hugs, and most of the brothers that gave me hugs were already were friends with, because I'd been going to the mosque for like a month or two,
Right.
so they were just really happy and everything for me. It felt really nice and special.
One of the persons that I used to listen to when I was a student, this was in my early 20s, Ibrahim Gonzalez, used to come and teach us in New York. He used to give khutbas at Columbia University and MSA. There was at least 200, 250 students in the auditorium that used to get together. He used to come every month, once a month, and he used to speak. And that was the first Hispanic Muslim that I had met. And he had his own radio program on WBAI. And he was so special, such a wonderful brother, alhamdulillah, so special.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. So this is the book up. Gotta put it somewhere where you can, let me just get rid of the screen sharing, and then maybe we'll be able to see that a little bit better. And how do I end it? So, well, how do I end the screen sharing?
How do we end the screen sharing?
Oh, maybe this one.
Oh, that's it.
That it? No. Okay. Well, anyway, so so this is the book, and so in the remembrance page, we did in remembrance to Khadija Rivera, Ibrahim Gonzalez, and Benjamin Perez.
Wow.
And there's actually a bio for him that was written by Rahim Ocasio about him. Yeah, about Ibrahim Gonzalez.
Right.
It's very pretty and they've been friends, like Rahim Ocasio and this other brother named Yahya Figueroa, and I think it was Ibrahim Ocasio and Yahya. They were they grew up like near each other, so eventually that they became Muslims. It was pretty impressive to me and very interesting.
Sure.
And that they ended up finding that organization, Alianza Islamica.
Right.
That's actually a book that I'm working on right now with Rahim Ocasio, inshallah.
Oh, mashallah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Allahumma ya Rabbi, he was a wonderful man. May Allah have mercy on him. Any other questions? And we have time for one final question.
At what age did you decide to become a Muslim?
How old were you at the time?
I was in my 20s.
MashaAllah.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Well, alhamdulillah, thank you so much for the precious time. I know your sister's visiting. Please convey our greetings to her and lots of love to Juan Jr. and the other two boys, and my salam to the whole family.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It was an honor.
Thank you so much, Juan. Thank you. Take care.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Take care.